Coronation Street has set up Nina Lucas's exit tonight, following a misunderstanding with newcomer Sienna. Furious Asha Alahan pointed out some harsh home truths, forcing Nina to assess her life choices. Nina and Asha made a huge change earlier this summer when they decided to move into the flat above the corner shop. Despite their romantic history, the exes agreed it wouldn't be weird to live together as friends. Recent episodes have seen Asha dating her colleague Sienna, with their new romance seemingly going well. However, yesterday, Nina noticed Sienna's increasingly shifty behavior and wondered if she had anything to do with her missing money. In tonight's episode, Nina explained her theory that Sienna had stolen her cash as she was the only other person in the flat. But Asha was reluctant to believe Sienna was a thief. Their conversation was interrupted by the paramedic who arrived at the flat, with Nina struggling to hide his disdain. She immediately asked Sienna if she'd seen the money, while Asha tried to play peacemaker between the pair. "I never misplaced them. I know exactly where I put them, and when you were gone, my tips were gone, too," Nina stated. Insulted by the accusation, Sienna denied taking the money and in turn accused Nina of being a jealous ex. She stormed out, leaving Asha furious. Later, after turning the flat upside down, Asha found the envelope of money in the drawer where Nina left it. She suggested that Sienna was right about her being jealous, claiming Nina was stuck in a rut and too scared to take any chances in life. Last month Molly Gallagher, who plays Nina, announced she would be exiting the Cobbles to join the stage production of Silence of the Lambs. Speaking exclusively with Digital Spy, the star confirmed that she wouldn't be killed off on the soap, leaving the door open for a future return. "I would not have been able to deal with that. Nina is such a unique character and I think there's so much to do with her. That's why I don't think her story is over," she explained. "There's her art. When she came into the show, she was really talented. I wanted to explore more of that. Obviously there's the brilliant relationship with Roy, too. I think that's my favorite part of being at Corey, Nina and Roy. So I hope that it isn't the end." For Nina Lucas, Weatherfield has never been the easiest place to call home. From heartbreak and grief to difficult relationships and battles that have forced her to confront parts of herself she would rather forget, Nina has experienced more than most people could imagine. But now, just when she might have hoped that life on the Cobbles was finally becoming calmer, a series of painful home truths could leave her questioning whether she still belongs on Coronation Street at all. The latest developments appear to be laying the groundwork for a major turning point for Nina, one that could ultimately see her prepare to walk away from Weatherfield. Nina has always been someone who feels things deeply. She can be fiercely loyal, compassionate and protective, particularly when it comes to the people she loves. But that same emotional intensity has sometimes left her struggling to see the bigger picture. And this time, someone is prepared to make her face reality. The trouble begins when Nina finds herself caught up in an increasingly uncomfortable situation. What initially appears to be something she can handle quickly begins to expose deeper problems that she has been avoiding. Instead of simply brushing aside the warning signs, Nina is forced to listen as someone close to her tells her exactly what they think. And she doesn't like what she hears. The conversation quickly becomes one of those moments where there is nowhere left to hide. Nina may want to defend her choices, explain her actions and insist that she knows what she is doing, but the person confronting her isn't interested in excuses. They want Nina to understand that she cannot continue living her life based entirely on what other people expect from her. For Nina, those words hit harder than expected. She has spent so long trying to protect others that she may have forgotten to ask herself a simple question: what does she actually want? That question could become increasingly important as the storyline develops. At first, Nina attempts to shrug off the confrontation. She acts as though the comments have not affected her and continues with her normal routine. But anyone who knows Nina can see that something has changed. The words are stuck in her mind. Every time she walks down the Cobbles, every familiar face seems to remind her of everything she has been through. The memories are everywhere, the good ones, the painful ones, and the moments she would rather leave firmly in the past. Suddenly, Weatherfield doesn't feel quite as comforting as it once did. And that is where the possibility of Nina's exit begins to emerge. Rather than making an impulsive decision, Nina starts quietly considering what life could look like somewhere else. The idea frightens her. But at the same time, there is something strangely appealing about it. A fresh start. No painful memories around every corner. No constant reminders of mistakes she has made. No expectations from people who believe they know what is best for her. Could leaving Weatherfield finally give Nina the chance to discover who she really is? The problem is that walking away would mean leaving people behind. And Nina isn't someone who can simply turn off her emotions and disappear. Her relationships have always mattered enormously to her. Even when she is angry, frustrated, or hurt, Nina still cares. That makes the prospect of leaving much more complicated. Someone close to her could sense that she is pulling away and confront her about it. Nina might initially deny that anything is wrong. But eventually, the truth begins to come out. She admits that she doesn't know whether Weatherfield is still the place where she can build the future she wants. The confession leaves the other person stunned. After everything Nina has endured, they understand why she might want to escape. But they also warn her that running away won't necessarily solve everything. And once again, Nina is given a home truth she doesn't want to hear. Leaving could provide distance. But distance isn't the same thing as healing. That distinction could become the emotional heart of Nina's story. She has spent so much time surviving difficult situations that the idea of deliberately choosing a completely different life feels almost impossible. Nina has learned to react when something goes wrong. Now she has to decide what she wants when nothing is forcing her hand. That is a much harder question. As Nina wrestles with the decision, she could begin looking at Weatherfield differently. The rovers. The familiar streets. The people she has known for years. Places that once made her feel trapped suddenly begin to feel precious. Could she really leave all of it behind? The answer becomes even more complicated when Nina receives another reminder that her life cannot simply continue as it has been. A conversation that begins calmly takes a sharper turn when Nina is told that she has been allowing fear to control too many of her decisions. Nina is furious. She insists that nobody understands what she has been through. But then comes the response she least expects. Perhaps they don't. But they do understand what they can see happening now. Nina is unhappy. She is exhausted. And she is slowly becoming someone who is afraid to make a choice because every possible choice carries the risk of hurting somebody. That accusation cuts through Nina's anger. Because deep down, she knows there is truth in it. For years, Nina has tried to do the right thing. But what if constantly trying to do the right thing has stopped her from doing what is right for herself? That thought could lead to a huge emotional breakthrough. Rather than immediately announcing that she is leaving, Nina begins considering the possibility seriously. She starts imagining herself somewhere completely different. A place where nobody knows her history. A place where she isn't defined by the tragedies she has survived. A place where she can simply be Nina. For the first time in a long while, the idea of change doesn't feel entirely terrifying. It feels exciting. Of course, Nina's potential exit would not be straightforward. There would almost certainly be one final emotional obstacle standing in her way. Someone she loves could discover that she is considering leaving. And their reaction could force Nina to confront the consequences of her decision. They might accuse her of abandoning the people who need her. Nina could fire back that she has spent enough of her life putting everybody else first. The argument would become increasingly emotional until Nina finally says something she has been keeping inside for far too long. She doesn't want to spend the rest of her life being defined by what happened to her. She wants the chance to become somebody different. The admission could leave both characters speechless. Because suddenly, Nina's possible departure doesn't feel like her running away. It feels like her choosing herself. That doesn't make the decision painless. Nina would still have to say goodbye. And for someone as emotional as her, those farewells could be devastating. There could be a quiet moment in which Nina looks around at everything she has known and wonders whether she is making the biggest mistake of her life. What if she leaves and regrets it? What if she stays and regrets that instead? For once, there is no easy answer. And that uncertainty makes her storyline all the more powerful. Nina could eventually reach a decision, but viewers may be left wondering whether she will actually go through with it. A last-minute event could change everything. Someone might need her. A forgotten piece of her past could resurface. Or perhaps Nina herself could realize that she doesn't need to completely erase her old life in order to start again. But the home truths she has received will not disappear. They have changed the way she sees herself. That may be the real beginning of Nina's exit storyline. Whether she ultimately leaves Weatherfield or decides to stay, Nina cannot simply return to the person she was before. She has been forced to acknowledge that something in her life needs to change. And sometimes the biggest departures begin long before somebody actually walks away. They begin with a thought. A doubt. A question. For Nina, that question is simple but terrifying. What if there is a better life waiting somewhere beyond the cobbles? The possibility of Nina Lucas leaving Coronation Street would undoubtedly be an emotional moment for viewers who have watched her journey unfold. But it could also represent something hopeful. Nina has survived heartbreak, loss, fear and uncertainty. She has repeatedly been forced to pick herself up and carry on. Now she may finally have the opportunity to decide what comes next. Not because somebody else tells her what to do. Not because circumstances force her hand. But because she chooses it. And if Nina does eventually walk away from Weatherfield, her final scenes could be less about escaping her past and more about finally refusing to let that past control her future. The cobbles may always be part of Nina's story. But perhaps they don't have to be the ending. Sometimes, the hardest home truth is also the one that sets you free. And for Nina Lucas, that truth could be the beginning of goodbye. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Crown ST.